Welcome back to the channel, Adventures Through Climate Change, with your host, Trevor Snyder. And today, of course, we're talking about climate change. We're trying to figure out what the heck is going on. We've watched a lot of videos on Ralph Ellis, and I suggest you go to his channel because we found out a lot about dust and albedo. I mean, in addition to the Malkovich cycle. So, I mean, it's all kind of coming together with the natural cycle. But we're really trying to figure out is how much human influence is there on it currently, and is the CO2 really, should that be the focus? But today we were actually looking at, is recycling worth it anymore? And this is an NPR video. As you can see, is recycling worth it anymore? The truth is complicated, and I think it is complicated. And NPR is a national publicized radio, right? And it is funded by the federal government. I know they say it's not, but there's a whole bunch of grants that are available that basically pay for all of NPR. They're basically paid for by the U.S. federal government. So sometimes, in my opinion, you get propaganda, and that's just what happens. But let's take a look anyways, and maybe we'll find some consensus as well.
This is James Williams. This is James Williams' bale of plastic.
Got a collection.
This is James Williams' stockpile of 25,000 pounds of his county's recycling. See, what's missing here is the part where the recycling actually gets recycled. Normally, James would sell all this to a processor who handles that. But something is happening to America's recycling system. It's in a bit of a crisis.
We actually had to give away hundreds of tons of paper because there was no market for it.
This is Craig Hampel. He runs a recycling center in Burbank, California.
You might be able to get 20 or 22 tons on a truck, but it may cost you a few $100s just to move it across the Los Angeles basin.
Recycling, which was supposed to make money, was in fact costing it. And that's just one thing on a long list of things about America's recycling system that is no longer working. But Americans keep throwing things in bins, and trucks keep collecting them, and so people like James have had to come up with creative solutions.
I've actually acquired some semi-trailers so we can stuff material full of them.
This is a story about responsibility and what happens when everyone keeps trying to pass it off to the next person, and what happens when finally there is no next person. Here in America, we generate the most waste per capita in the world. And if recycling keeps going the way it's going, figuring out what to do with all of that is going to be a big problem.
Wow, okay. What do I do? That's a very good question. I am a department of one.
This is Monica Boehringer. She has unique insights as to how we got into this mess. Problem number one, a public that is very disconnected from the reality of recycling.
Public Works, this is Monica. How can I help you? Is it out at the curb or is it on? Okay, it's at the curb. Hey Billy, it's Monica. How are you? The resident has been yard waste in the wrong containers. So let me transfer you over there, okay? Hold on a second.
To get serious about the recycling.
We collected about an hour and a half ago. Some of the phone calls that I get regarding recycling, the numbers thing, okay? There is something on your recycling, on your plastic especially, and it's like a little symbol with the chasing arrows and a number in it. They think they see the chasing arrows and a number, and they're like, oh, obviously this is recyclable, but it isn't.
There's all scrambling, all the marketers are scrambling to have their eco cred by having the recycling symbol on their packaging.
This is Amy Hammis. She's the recycling specialist at Burbank Recycle Center.
The recycling logo, which we call the chasing arrows, what it is doing is from the plastic resin manufacturer to the recycler, it's signaling, here's the kind of plastic we used in that particular product. So even if a package is saying it's recyclable or it's got the recycling logo on it, that's not always the full story. It's not whether we want to recycle something or not. It's about, can we sell it?
Which depends.
I heard that in the end, only about 10% of items get actually recycled, and the rest either gets scrapped or something. I'm not exactly sure. Burned off. I'm not even sure. And the other thing is, when they do some of this stuff, the energy involved in recycling it, is it worth it in the long run if you have energy issues? They already said hauling it, the trucks driving around all the time. It's just, rather than just having one garbage truck just driving around, and I get it. We want to reuse a lot of the materials and whatnot, but it might not be applicable.
Depends entirely on where you are, because there are virtually no federal regulations for recycling.
You go to someplace like California, their regulations are very different. You go to Washington State, it's different again. You go to Colorado, it's another story. And it's that lack of consistency across the board that adds to the confusion.
One thing about recycling that is consistent across America, residents' total delusion about what they can put in the bin.
They just think
pizza
that
boxes.
the recycling cart is a portal to another universe, and it's not.
People in the industry call it wish cycling.
It runs the gamut. It really does. You'd be very surprised what people think is recyclable.
You name it, eventually it'll be found in it.
Let's see, a pool table,
Big propane tanks.
Needles, loose needles.
a neck brace,
We've had guns, ammunition, fireworks, sparklers.
a kitchen sink.
I believe
Somebody
that.
called to ask me
That's scrap
which
metal.
end of the deer to put into the cart first.
We had a live snake recently. We were able to save him and release him out into
think anybody
into a
put
nature
that in
preserve. The one thing about the public is when they are done with the material, they're done with it. They're not connecting the dots, that there's a journey that item is going to take, and it's going to become someone else's responsibility.
Someone else's responsibility, a beautiful concept. And for America, that someone was China. Until a few years ago, America exported millions of tons of plastic trash, selling it to China to be recycled into something new.
China provided this huge, easy cure-all to overconsumption in the developed countries. China was hungry. They were building an economy based on manufacturing. You could send those
Smart.
contaminated materials to China, and they could put, labor at 1/10 the cost to sort those materials. And so for a while, it was a handshake agreement. We'll take the dirty stuff and we'll sort it over here. You just get us the bulk material.
The percentage, the quantity of valuable recycling material started to get smaller and smaller and smaller. The wishful recycling, people not putting things in correctly, the assumption that somebody else will finish the job for you.
Now, this wasn't entirely the fault of consumers. There are two types of contamination: contamination caused by citizens and contamination caused by manufacturers.
Say, think of like a canister, like Pringles or some coffees come in. That canister is made up of paper, cardboard, then inside is glued aluminum foil. All that stuff is recyclable by itself. But when you combine materials together, who are you gonna sell it to? The paper guy doesn't want paper that's got aluminum foil glued to it, and the metal person doesn't want to have to dismantle the paper, and we're not doing that. All we are is sorting it and selling it.
And both types of contamination were happening too frequently. More and more, we weren't sending China recycling. We were sending them our trash. Plus, China had grown so much that they were generating enough waste to meet their demand for raw materials on their own. Importing America's waste was becoming more of a problem than it was worth.
And they started looking at their own environment and what was happening. then it really, the hammer really came down.
I'm not exactly an environmentalist, right? I do believe in people should pick up after themselves. I do like things when they're nice. I don't think you should litter. I think there's plenty of places to throw your trash. All those things. I'm just not, obviously I'm just not a climate control kind of guy. But seeing this type of stuff is disgusting. It does make you reevaluate what you're doing and whatnot. Like a few years back, we went back from paper plates because they were so easy back to just doing dishes. Look, we do dishes every night now. And look, there's going to be water waste because we're putting soap in the water now. It's crazy. So there's going to be issues. You're switching one thing for another. But this is disgusting. It really is.
That's when we started sending our waste to other countries, and they started having similar pollution problems. Eventually, the United Nations banned the export of contaminated plastic waste to developing nations.
So the position that we're left with is we're still collecting all these materials. We're still generating all these materials.
You just don't do anything with them.
But now we just can't sell it to anyone that's going to make it into something new.
All right, what are we going to do with this material today that we've got 5 boxes coming in and only got room for 3? So everything just piles up on us, and we just move what we can when we can.
We have Earth, right? We have this one planet. We only have so many places that we could put our waste. You can't put it in the ocean. Look what happened, You can't put it on top of a mountain. They've even tried to put it into a volcano.
That's sad. It seems dangerous.
It's not worth.
I do wonder, there's a lot of mining pits and a lot of big things that are just, scrap yards anyways. I have often thought about those places and been like, why don't we just fill up that stuff? The Grand Canyon, let's just fill it up, I'm joking to some degree.
Working. We have to come up with a better plan.
We do. I would agree. I probably disagree with her on a lot of things, and I completely agree.
This pile in the warehouse right now is probably somewhere in the vicinity of about 100 tons, and that pile is one person in the United States. About a lifetime of discards, that's about what it would look like.
Recycling, it's one of those things where it not only does the public kind of depend on that emotionally to relinquish their, guilt about buying things, but it has been kept alive.
Guilt about buying things that, not just buying things, but things that, just to throw away, a soda can and blah, 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 whatever. But the bottles, it's just plastic bags. It's
Live by the manufacturers. And this is a long history of this.
To understand that, we have to start here, in the 1940s.
The future will bring plastic fabrics wondrously fine, shoes more glamorous than Cinderella's.
When manufacturers started using plastic for consumer goods, they treated it as a durable material, using it to make objects meant to last.
There will be furniture combining strength with lightness.
But pretty soon, manufacturers realized that the fastest way to increase profits would be to get people to buy plastic, use it once, and then throw it away. At one plastics industry conference in 1956, a speaker looked out at the crowd of plastic manufacturers and said to them, "Your future is in the garbage wagon." And things started to explode.
Baggy's plastic bags always have the sound of freshness.
A new invention from Procter &
You just throw the whole razor away.
This new 2-liter plastic bottle.
Handles easy. These like a plastic.
You produce consumers over and over, right? You make something that lasts forever or whatever. They're not coming back to you. And how many consumers do you have? And I think that's a big thing right now too.
Dollars take pounds off your shopping list. And they're strong enough to participate in some of life's hard knocks.
Naturally, generating all of this new waste had consequences.
All these one-way containers that were just starting out were showing up in all the public spaces. So the federal government, US, said, hey, manufacturers, we want you to do something about this. They said, okay, wait, don't restrict this, because these one-way containers are the best thing since, sliced bread. And so they said, okay, we'll create Keep America Beautiful, we'll talk about littering.
Coca-Cola and Dixie Cup and a bunch of other companies got together and formed an organization called Keep America Beautiful and started making PSAs.
Daddy, you forgot. Every litter bit hurts.
Right, Susan Spotless? Every litter bit, thoughtlessly dropped, blemishes a bit of America.
These got people to stop littering and shifted the responsibility of dealing with waste from manufacturers to the consumers. And for a while, that worked.
They are buying it. It's their trash now.
A unique day in American history is ending, a day set aside for a nationwide outpouring of mankind seeking its own survival. Earth Day.
By 1970, citizens were increasingly concerned about the environment. Manufacturers were facing growing pressure to take responsibility for excess production.
The garbage, the trash, the carbon monoxide, the junk.
So on Earth Day, the next year, Keep America Beautiful released this.
Some people have a deep, abiding respect for the natural beauty that was once this country. And some people don't. People start pollution. People can stop it.
I mean, that's kind of sad.
And they have never stopped talking about littering, and they've never started talking about the excess production.
Keep America Beautiful's senior director, Randy Hartman, says that it has expanded its efforts to promote recycling. It partners with local communities to do so.
So this is a litter picker. People like these. These were a gift when I went to the Keep America Beautiful conference. Because I attended, I got 24 of these. In 2017, we became a Keep America Beautiful affiliate. And so that's about recycling awareness and litter collection.
Recycling, when it works, is a valuable way to preserve resources. But we overbelieve in it.
The marketing of it for decades has been, you're saving the earth. That's all you need to do, public. Keep consuming, you can do all this disposability, and all you have to do is simply put it in that blue bin. Your job as a citizen is done. So it led to more...
It's a great way to shift responsibility. Fantastic.
Disposability, really. And because we had that get out of jail free card to ease our guilt.
Has consumerism driven me mad as a recycler? The answer is no. What we would need to do is to work together with manufacturers to be more responsible in the development of products and maybe reducing some of the packaging. How do I square this with my life at home, for example? I've got an affinity for applesauce. My applesauce contains...
Okay, look at her cups right here. Guaranteed these are getting thrown away eventually, right? There's throwaway cups. I don't know. There's throwaway forks right here, or throwaway spoons, plastic spoons. Did she find these things in the recycle bin, or is this something that she's adding to the issue? Just saying.
Containers, those little plastic cups, are awesome for a lot of other different things. It's a single-use cup, but it's something that I could use again, and I do. And how I square with all of this is I have hope, and I have energy, and I want to ignite the passion in someone to reinvent what they have and maybe use it one more time, just for me.
That's just eats at me all the time about recycling is we just keep trying to solve this on the back end, to try to solve the problems that are created upstream. I wish we could take the word recycling out of this equation and just talk about consumption and waste as if there was no recycling, because it has enabled some of the worst behavior I've ever seen. You guys want to take a bale home?
There's got to be some sort of use for that. Walls at borders. I'm just saying. I'm sure you could figure out how to do that. The other stuff is pretty expensive, anyways. I'm gonna cut the video off right here. I do think that it's a little bit crazy. It's a little bit much, and I think he's spot on. That we should really start talking about consumption and waste rather than recycling. And I think we should get rid of the myth of what recycling is and does. And I'm not trying to take away all these people's jobs that they do all this stuff, you know, but their jobs would get shifted to more sanitation. And how many trucks do we need going around? Do we need extra trucks going around when we can't even really recycle this stuff? We're not like, we were just doing it so we feel better inside. And that's how I feel about it. I didn't know how this video was going to go. I thought for sure that they were going to convince us a little bit more that recycling is still okay, but NPR putting out a good piece, in my opinion. In my opinion. You guys know what to do. If I've earned your subscription, I would love for you to click that right there. And notifications, liked if you like it, dislike if you think I'm completely wrong and just based or whatever. And man, I look forward to the next video, and I'll catch you there.